big thanks and hello to Stu, founder and CEO of Band of Climbers. Thanks for joining today, Stu. Stuart started Band of Climbers back in late 2015 as a hobby with no private investment and no experience in the industry at the time. And Band of Climbers now produces performance and lifestyle cycling apparel inspired by some of the greatest cycling climbs in the world. And the business has achieved real success, over 100% year-on-year annual growth, and now exports orders directly to over 10,000 customers in over 90 countries, so a true global reach. It's created a global community of cyclists who have a shared passion for cycling in the mountains, and now accounts for over 155,000 followers across its social media channels. Well done, Stu. You must be so proud to have achieved that level of growth from something that you just started out as a hobby, you must be so pleased with how it's gone. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about how it all started and how you came up with the idea originally?
Yeah, of course. Well, firstly, thanks for having me, Steve, and nice to talk to you. So I started the business back in very late 2015. I've been cycling for maybe 15, 16 years, something like that. And, I originally started cycling to lose weight, nothing more complicated than that. How the business came about, I always knew I kind of wanted to do something that I could be kind of really passionate about. And I started Band of Climbers, actually it was on my birthday in 2015, registered the domain names and everything like that.
Cool.
And, started designing cycling prints, kind of like artwork, similar to what you'll kind of see behind me here. Nice. And it was kind of 6 months after my first son was born. Anyone who's got kids, you'll know you're kind of stuck in the house after they've gone to bed. You can't leave them. So I used that time when he was in bed just to kind of design some prints for the walls. And it was all to do with artwork, really, that would inspire me to ride the bike more. The only goal I had in my head at the time was, could I make £50 a month from this, just to see if I could. No grand plans, no ambition, no business plan, that's for sure. And ended up starting on Etsy, the handmade marketplace. And made that first £50 in the first weekend. All sales that came from customers in the US. And then quickly thought, okay, there might be something in this. And since then it's grown quite a lot. We're still a small team now, but we've got a warehouse.
Fantastic.
Small team, 2 full-time, a couple of part-time team as well. It's been good fun growing it to this point. Still got no business plan, still never written one. And kind of enjoying that journey of organic growth.
Great. And so when did you introduce the apparel then? If it started with the more visual prints and so forth, what point did you choose to?
So we've been going for around 18 months, and we designed, I designed one single t-shirt, and it was a t-shirt which pretty much used one of the designs from the prints. And I'll be honest, nobody bought it. It was one of those where it was a real test to see would something that's worked and sold really well as a piece of art for the wall, would that work as a t-shirt? And like everything we've done, we've started small and kind of increased the volume of everything that we've done. It didn't do much at all. So we kind of scrapped that idea and went back to the drawing board, and we then produced a whole range of t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, and things like that for, I think it was spring, summer 2018.
Okay.
So that was the first time we'd done a real range of apparel rather than just kind of in it. And that's where we saw the more rapid growth, if you like.
Okay. Yeah. So you sort of grown it, and it sort of snowballed a bit, and that's been reflected in the development of the product range, I suppose, which then again has helped with the growth. Fantastic.
So everything we've done is, to do with what's inspired me and what's inspired us to go and ride our bikes. And so the apparel had to fit with that. So it started off, for various reasons, it started off as casual apparel, so t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies. And then over the last 2 years, it's morphed into much more of a cycling apparel, which is much more technical apparel, much more specific to the needs of cyclists, and kind of cyclist as well, which for us is all about road cycling. If you're not a cyclist, the nearest thing you can probably describe it as what you see in the Tour de France. That all on the road, all up and down mountains and that sort of stuff. So we don't do anything to do with mountain biking or anything like that. It's purely a road cycling apparel brand.
Yeah. Okay. And cycling itself is fair to say it's taken off. Popularity over the past few years, right across the spectrum of, you touched on there, different types of cyclists that exist. Apparently nearly half the population now in the UK own a bike, and retailers such as Whole Foods, who we work with, they've reported significant growth over the past 12 months in bike sales during the pandemic and so forth. Do you think this type of growth has helped? Has it influenced the growth of the business, the growth in popularity of cycling?
I think cycling probably before the virus was probably on a little bit of a downward trend. I think around sort of 2011, 2012, in the UK especially, that was its kind of peak period because of the likes of Bradley Wiggins winning the kind of first Tour de France as a British person, for example. And we've had a bit of a boom since then. And I think it was starting to tail off a little bit before the virus. But then obviously that's come along, lockdown and people being able to exercise indoors on indoor bikes, or whether it's outside alone. We're quite fortunate, especially in the UK, that we've all been able to exercise as much as we like. And that has definitely made an increase in the interest in cycling. So we've got close links with a lot of other cycling brands now, and we know one of the cycling bike manufacturers have sold out of all of their 2021 models.
Amazing.
And they're already starting to sell the 2022 models. And I think the knock-on effect of this for us as a brand is it's kind of made it a bit more of a challenge. Or from a manufacturing lead time, our manufacturers have more orders than they've ever had before. So our lead times are a little bit longer than they've ever had before. So we've just got to be kind of, I think, a little bit more careful in terms of how we plan for that. And make sure we're ordering the right quantity of stock for all our new collections. But absolutely, cycling has boomed, especially in the UK, and as a mode of transport as well. And I think that's really nice to see that more families have been out cycling together, and more using cycling as a way to get to work or to school or whatever it has. So it's been nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a positive thing, isn't it? Getting out and about, getting fresh air, the exercise element as well. It's super positive. So out of those different groups, those different types of cyclists that exist within that sort of overall growth group, if you like, who would you class as your typical customers? You touched on before, it's evolved the range of products into, road cycling and the apparel related to that. Is that your sort of core customer group?
Yeah, I would say so. So if you look at, the likes who use cycling as active travel, for example, in terms of getting from A to B, I may be wrong, but I don't think they're our core customer. I think our core customer is those that are very interested in cycling as a sport. Whether that's purely alone, whether they watch any professional level cycling I don't think that important. I think our customers are those that are very much inspired by the outdoors, in particular the mountains, and riding up the nearest hills around them. So that's the thing that is the center point of our brand is hills and mountains. And it doesn't matter if you're an elite level professional or you're a beginner. Cycling up hills and mountains is hard work. So we have this strap line, which is "Together We Climb." That's kind of really been one of the focal points of the brand, and it brings everybody together, because even if you see someone on the side of a hill or a mountain, and you can tell they're out of breath, you can tell they're working hard to get up this thing, and we've all been there, cyclists. We all know that kind of pain in the legs, and the lungs are burning and all that sort of stuff. So "Together We Climb" really is kind of like a mantra that we have, which means it doesn't matter if you're on your own or you're with a group of 100 people. We all know that pain, and we'll all help you kind of get there. swap, however that is.
Great. That's amazing. And I guess it creates that sort of community, be that sort of practical or virtual almost, which is that sort of support network as well. And it's something we've seen. I'll come on to later around an exercise initiative we've been involved in, which Red January, which is can involve cycling, but it's also running and walking and other forms as well. And the way seeing through channels like social media how the community comes together, and even people who don't know each other like on a day-to-day level, but virtually are engaging through a shared passion. It's great to see. So and one of the amazing things about cycling is it's really organic. People come together under this shared passion, and I think an observation is that it's really helps the brand through, as you'd expect, the user-generated content, conversation, particularly through channels such as social media and in particular Instagram. And you've developed, a fantastic following on Instagram, over 125,000 followers. This sort of organic community element, is this impacted on the development of the brand or on its success that you've achieved?
Yeah, so right from almost day one of the business, we started generating followers who would provide us with really nice content. So everything we post on Instagram for me is about inspiration. So we've been really fortunate. We've been able to kind of gather customers and followers who will provide us with content of them cycling in the mountains, of them riding in really nice locations, and it's that kind of stuff that's always really inspired me. So if anyone's been on our Instagram, you'll no doubt see really nice landscape shots of mountains in all over Europe, all over the world. And obviously when I started the business on my own, there was no possible way I could go out and generate that kind of content. So being able to kind of use the content of our followers and our customers as one, given us a platform on which to kind of build the brand and tell the story, but also it's really brought people in. So we've encouraged that from our customers. We've encouraged them to send us their photos, and they love kind of seeing their posts on our channels as well. And it's really helped, gather that sense of community. So as well as the followers that we have, which is incredible. One of the kind of key things that I love is the number of people who actually use our hashtag Band of Climbers across Instagram.
Brilliant.
I've lost count of kind of how many times that's been used. It must be well over 50,000-60,000 times.
Fantastic.
It's just kind of really pleasing to see.
Brilliant. And it sort of reinforces, it endorses the brand. It's helps spread the word about the brand as well. It's just great. And even right down to a practical level, listening to you there, and when you are a small team, having that user-generated organic content that they then love that you share, it's fantastic. And your social posts, particularly through Instagram, they do achieve, generally speaking, really strong engagement. And you've recently posted about your experience on this, referencing a couple of post examples that achieved over 13,000 likes and over 300,000 views, which is great engagement. And there's a couple of pieces of advice that you shared on this that I'd like to chat through, if that's okay. Because I'm sure our listeners will be really interested. So the first piece of advice was, real content is what drives engagement. Neither the photo or the reel was an organized photo shoot. We were just doing what we love to do, ride bikes and take photos. No big budgets, no art direction, just real, authentic content that our followers love to see. So this authenticity approach around content, and I think you were referencing there, when you are sort of out on a ride and it's not the user, it's not your customer generated content, it's the content you're generating yourself. How are you approaching this when you're out on a shoot? Because naturally, if you're riding the bike and you're with a colleague or a friend or similar, I presume you have a photographer with you, or how do you go about it?
Yeah, so there's two ways we generate our own content. So one of which is just naturally when we're out riding our bikes. I've always got my iPhone. The team's always got their iPhones on them, so we're always kind of. I think many cyclists now are used to kind of riding and taking photos at the same time, or stopping at certain points on a ride to take a photo. So that's the most basic level.
Yeah.
When we are in the Alps or Dolomites, wherever it may be, I'll typically ride with like a mini DSLR camera with me, or the lightest camera I can find, so I'm not adding too much weight to my bike. And we'll use that just to take photos that I've taken myself. On the flip side, we'll then have a photographer with us in certain locations or at certain times. So if we are deliberately producing a season's worth of photography, we'll have a photographer with us who will typically follow in a support vehicle and car, so that we can change our apparel as we're riding and shoot different kind of looks and things like that for different seasons and different collections. But on the whole, the organic stuff is, well, everything we do is real. We don't make anything. We ride bikes. We produce the content that works for us, commercially, but also everything that we do has to work on Instagram. So if we're shooting and it just doesn't look right for Instagram, then we just won't use it. We want content that is inspirational, and we want content that brings people further into the brand and lets them realize that we are just real people who ride real bikes.
That's great, and it truly is inspirational. Some of the shots you have are amazing, and it makes me, when I go on Instagram, you particularly at the moment, the challenge we've had over the last 12 months makes me think of hopefully better times in the future, being able to travel more, travel full stop, and go and see some of the great places that you've managed to shoot over the time that you've been running the business. It's brilliant to see. The second point that you shared, perhaps a little bit more tactical, but it does align with feedback we've had from other people, particularly through social media, and how they've managed to gain competitive advantage, is jumping on new technology developments, new opportunities that exist in the channel. And you referenced here in your second piece of advice, Instagram Reels particularly, and how this opened up a whole new world of opportunities for Banded Climbers and other brands. You jumped on it quicker than other competitor brands in your space, and as an example, you've seen some great results in terms of engagement and follower growth. Could you expand on that a little bit? How did it influence that growth in audience? How did you see as soon as you started implementing that into your feed, it was immediately sort of generating new followers, or how did it?
So we like I said, we certainly weren't the first to use Instagram Reels, but I think we probably used it quicker than many of the bigger brands in our space. And what we've done is we've just used content that we maybe shot 18 months ago, 2 years ago, in the Alps, which we probably would have no use for now. We wouldn't be able to do anything with it. And Reels has really given us an avenue to use that. And so we've chopped it up to meet the Instagram content guideline, which is either a 15 or 30-second video. And we've kind of started playing around with it a little bit more. And the one piece that you referenced there is just me. I've got a GoPro kind of strapped to my chest. And I'm following John, our accountant, actually down. It's actually the highest paved col in Europe, in the French Alps. It's beautiful. There's huge snow walls that have been carved out.
I've seen it.
In June, and it's just me with a GoPro. It's nothing more than that. It was cold. It wasn't as cold as everyone maybe thinks it was, because we didn't have gloves on and all that sort of stuff. But it's had 350,000 views.
Fantastic.
And it's kind of like our most widespread piece of content we've ever used. And this was shot nearly 2 years ago. And like I say, we wouldn't normally have a use for that now. The clothing that we were wearing, we don't even sell now. But because it was real, because we were there, and, I think that's what's kind of captured the imagination. And it just shows people what we are. And at the end of the day, we're just guys that like to ride our bikes. And we get to kind of tell the story through using Reels now, and it's given us this whole new avenue for using all this content that would have no use anymore, really.
Yeah, that's great. It's great that you can repurpose content in that way. So a lot of brands that are more sort of trend-led brands, perhaps in the fashion apparel space, can't necessarily repurpose their content if it features particular products, because they might be, old products from old ranges. So it's brilliant that, you almost have that evergreen element, because their spaces that you shoot in, the inspiration is largely from, the visual element of the places you're shooting in. And, they still exist and they'll still be inspirational, but for many years to come, forever, sort of thing. So yeah, it's great.
Going back to the impact it had, I mean, we probably added 3,000-4,000 followers in the space of a few days following that. So
yeah,
and I'm under no illusion the vast majority of the followers that we have will only follow us to get the nice imagery, and we know of a lot of people that follow us just to kind of look at the mountains and the areas that we talk about, because they want to go and cycle there. We know that that's on the whole what they maybe follow us for, not necessarily for our apparel, but through bringing them in, through giving them that content and that advice and those key pieces of information that we sometimes share as well, that we'll bring them into the brand eventually, and long term they may hopefully become customers as well.
Yeah, and you're introducing the brand to them in a really positive way. Okay, you may not have products that they want to purchase right now, but listening to the way the product range has organically evolved so much over the time you've been going, you may release some products in the future that they perhaps want to buy, or even the element of them being brand ambassadors, even if it's soft, and that word of mouth that you get from them following the brand, it all has benefit, I'd suggest. So it's great that you're building a following like that. Just to move on to the present, I wanted to touch on something around the exercise element particularly. I mentioned before that we've been engaged for the past month in an initiative called Red January. We've got together a group of 150 people in the advertising and marketing community in the region. It's been super, super positive, and we've really seen people benefiting from it in a way that we never fully expected, around their mental health, their well-being, getting out and about, exercising. And so I wondered, did you see similar feedback, positive feedback or otherwise, within your Band of Climbers community, within the cycling community? Because naturally, it's a form of exercise, and when I've been out cycling, I get a lot from the exercise element. I always feel good after a ride, provided I don't fall off my bike or similar, but provided it all goes okay. From the actual exercise element, I always end up with a positive feeling of well-being. And what's been great amongst that Red January initiative is seeing posts from individuals in our group saying, I was having a bad day, I was having a bad week, but I've been out for a run, or I've done this form of exercise and it's really helped me, and it's really helped me feel much better. And particularly, I think, over the past 12 months, it's been a challenging period, obviously, and that element that exercise can bring around positive well-being and mental health, in my view, is super positive. Have you seen anything within your experience? You mentioned you've been cycling for a long time, and obviously the brand's been going, since 2015. Have you seen anything along these lines around positive mental health or well-being?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, me personally, I mean, I got into cycling just as a form of exercise to lose weight. And I know now, cycling is pretty much my only escape. It has been for a long time. I don't really drink. I don't really, I don't go to the pub with friends and things. Even before lockdown, it's kind of, I cycle with friends, and that's always been my outlet to get my stress away and things like that. But absolutely, in the wider community, not that I know intimate details of stories, but I've seen cycling saving people from the worst, and it's powerful. I think any exercise you can do, especially in the outdoors, is really helpful for the mind and obviously the body as well. And I think what's really important is that sense of community as well. That there's people there who you can go and ride with, within lockdown rules and things like that. I think it's really key that we are in the UK allowed to exercise through lockdown. I think the current rule is you're allowed to ride with one other person from another household. So I think that's really important as well, because it just gives you that outlet to talk to people and keep those social bonds as well.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I'd align with that. Absolutely. So, what's next then? What's next for the brand? We've heard about the sort of success to date and how it's evolved from, the product range has evolved significantly. The growth has been exponential, and what's the plans next for the brand? What have you got coming up?
Yeah, it's quite an exciting time because we've grown. 2020 was 120 odd % up on 2019.
Brilliant.
We're quite, it's at a point at the moment where I'm not even sure which way I want to take the business. So it's growing, and the forecast for this year is to continue that growth. But I'm not entirely sure how to achieve that. If I'm totally honest, I come back to the very humble beginnings of the business where this was a hobby, and I've still never written a business plan. So I am looking at all avenues from potentially bringing in investment to help scale the business much further. But at the same time, I want this business to be fun for everybody as well. So, we've grown completely organically. We've had no private investment, no bank loans. We don't have an overdraft, for example. So everything we've done is grown through cash flow, and bringing money back into the business. So, and I want to make that always kind of a key part of the business as well. So the next year we will concentrate on further refining and growing the apparel range. This year was going to be the first year where we ran multiple cycling holidays in the Alps and Dolomites as well. So we've run a couple of guided cycling holidays in the French Alps now. In September this year, we have our first trip to the Dolomites, and this is the first time we've done something in Italy. And pleased to say the trip sold out in 10 minutes when we launched it, which is incredible. Obviously, COVID permitting, we'll see whether we can actually run these things. But the travel side of the business is huge, and that's something I want to really explore further. We've seen the guys that come with us on these trips become almost friends for life, not just customers. You get to live with your customers for 10 days and share these experiences, which is incredible. So, absolutely want to do more of that. But it's an exciting time. There's lots of other avenues that we want to grow in terms of just looking at PR, events, sponsorship, and really putting us on the map of kind of global cycling apparel brands, and continuing to increase the strength in the brand that we have as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, it feels like there's so much opportunity from listening to what you said, and even from the background in the brand and how you've grown it, across the product range that you've now got. And that travel opportunity sounds brilliant, particularly with the uptake that you've just referenced there. Amazing popularity that particular holiday seemed to have. Brilliant. And you mentioned at the start that you have got a true international reach. Customers in over 90 countries, which is brilliant. Do you see this international sort of expansion continuing? Do you see potentially building visibility to those international regions? And I know that Brexit is a consideration for you as well. Obviously, we're going to have to. I think that the whole of the UK is going to have to see, what real impact that has, particularly for brands that trade internationally. But do you have hopes for continuing the expansion across those other regions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, since I started the business, we've never had a specific international strategy. We've just organically grown in those countries. So there are 4 or 5 countries around the world now which are our kind of core overseas markets, and I think luckily there's only one of those which is in the EU, which is Germany, and that's the one I was always particularly worried about with Brexit. Even since the 1st of January, since we've had Brexit, sales from there are still 100% up on last January. So I'm relatively relaxed now. I was worried, I'll be honest, at the start of the year, but we've taken some steps. We've partnered with an organisation called Globally, who help us with all of our international fulfillment requirements.
Great.
But Switzerland is another key country for us, and so we did an event there last summer, and you could kind of immediately see from that point on the net effect of just having been at this cycling event for 3 or 4 days. The sales and the traffic that we got from the website after that point was really, really promising. So
fantastic.
We do want to do more things overseas. So at the moment, around about 65% of our sales come from outside the UK.
Yeah.
And the US naturally makes up the biggest single share of that. And so that's the kind of key market that we'd like to grow in. And we're looking at every avenue really in terms of storing some stock over there and warehousing in the US specifically, but also setting up maybe a European base as well, which would certainly help with Brexit and all the new customs requirements and things like that.
Yeah.
Just strips out that level of red tape that we didn't have before.
Cool, exciting times. Just seems like there's so much opportunity for the brand, and you've done so well growing it from its early beginnings. I think we're at the end of our time now, Stu, but again, massive thank you for joining today, and some really inspiring discussion there. I'm sure there's listeners who have shared passions either for cycling or other retail areas that are taking a lot of note and a lot of positivity from the way the brand's developed. And you've done a great job, and long may it continue.
Thank you. I think the only thing I would say to people is, if you want to do something, if you've got a hobby you're interested in, and you think, could it make a business, then go for it. Absolutely go for it. And I never thought I'd be sitting here today. I never thought we'd be riding our bikes in the mountains and all that sort of stuff. So just absolutely go for it. And if you believe in something, you can absolutely do it.
Brilliant. Well, great piece of advice, Stu. Thanks so much. And thanks again for joining us today.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, take care. We'll speak soon. Thank you.